People in Trinidad and Tobago love controversial politicians. They don't like that, those wimpy, wishy-washy types that we see today. They like strong people. They like confrontation, people who are ready to confront the authorities.
As a boy in the 1940s, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj worked in his parents' shop in Diamond Village. There he saw firsthand the abuse, neglect and injustice suffered by people in rural Trinidad.
And in those days you had the barrack system in which people lived in the barracks. And most of my friends were living in the barracks, so I went into the barracks. I used to eat with them sometime in the barracks, and I saw their way of life in that they were trying to make two ends meet, and my parents were given credit to them. And I think the sufferings I saw and the need for people to be assisted to get out of that suffering impacted on my life to do something that will not only be a profession to earn money and to make a livelihood, but also to be able to help people.
After studying law at the Inner Temple in London, Maharaj was called to the bar in England in 1966. Soon he returned to Trinidad to set up his own chambers, becoming involved in civil and human rights law.
I appeared in very controversial cases, many cases in which people were not popular causes in Trinidad and Tobago. For example, there was a Rasta man who had his hair cut in the prison. And I took the position that you could not do that against his will, because he was saying that his hair was part of his religious belief. And in those days, taking up those matters, I filed a case about it. I was not successful.
In 1975, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj accused Justice Sunny Maharaj of unjudicial conduct before the court and was charged with contempt of court and sentenced to 7 days of simple imprisonment. Never one to back down from a fight, he challenged the charges before the Privy Council and won the lawsuit.
I tried to intercede in the incident between himself and Justice Sunny Maharaj. And I rushed over to the police station, and there he was, and I said, listen, why don't we just go back and apologize to the judge and let's get this thing over with? And he was very adamant. He says, no way will he do it. I think he did spend the 7 days in jail, if I remember.
Among other controversies, while canvassing for human rights in Trinidad, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, which he decried as political harassment and an act of terrorism by the state.
Police were extracting statements, confessions from individuals, and the prosecutions were based purely on confessions. And I was able to cross-examine the police officers and show that these confessions were unreliable. And I used my experience as a person charged, and I got from him that the police was paying him. They were giving him $500 a week. They had him in a hotel. They were given police transportation, police guard, and the case was thrown out.
The fact that he was charged with conspiracy to murder and all sorts of things, which I think was a lot of victimization for one reason or another.
He was prepared to face the music if he had to, and he would deal with confrontations frontally. And it didn't matter how it would impact on him, so long as what he was doing was right and that he was actually standing up for other people and himself.
I liked politics. As a matter of fact, I must say that I liked listening to Dr. Eric Williams as a young man. He made an impression on my life. I used to listen to the debates in the Parliament, on the radio, and I enjoyed the debates. But I never thought that I would want to enter into politics. But when I got into it, I loved it.
In preparation for the 1991 general elections, Basdeo Pandey, the leader of the opposition party, the United National Congress, invited Maharaj to join the ticket as the candidate for Couva South, a seat that he won. Soon after, he was appointed as the opposition chief whip.
I used that position to put a lot of pressure on the governments of the day to account to the people. And I think during that period of time, people have said it was a very effective opposition, because I think the duty of an opposition party is to make the government account, force the government account, to use all the machinery in the parliament, questions, motions, debates, and make the government account.
He really shot into prominence in politics. In 1995, when I appointed him Attorney General, and he was a very good Attorney General, very competent, hardworking. He's a workaholic, actually, a plodder who will plod until he finds the path that he wants to go.
In 1999, while Maharaj was still Attorney General, Dole Chedi and 8 members of his gang were executed after being found guilty of the murder of the Babulal family. Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj is probably best known for his adamance in administering the death penalty in the Dole Chedi trial.
The law in Trinidad and Tobago is that there should be the death sentence for persons who are convicted for murder. And if a person exhausts all his appeals, and the law is that he should be executed as quickly as possible. That is the law of the land, and it is my duty to uphold that.
His fearlessness, his persistence, his ability to stick to something and achieve it if he wants to do it. And I think that came out more than ever in the trial of Dole Chedi, who boasted that we can't do him anything, and he was so strong and so powerful and so on and so forth. And had Ramesh not been so doggedly persistent, we probably wouldn't have ended up meeting our justice in that case.
Well, you know, there is a misconception that in those days, and probably some now to some extent, that a fight for human rights means that criminals must commit crimes and get away. The death penalty was a human rights issue in those days, and personally, I'm against the death penalty. And the reason I'm against it is because I believe you can have errors, and you could have innocent people being executed. And that is that's the most important reason for me against the death penalty. So I could not be an Attorney General, take an oath to uphold the Constitution and the law, and impose my personal wish on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If I had to do that, I would have had to resign as Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago.
Like most of the people in this country, I think he was the best Attorney General this country has ever had. But it's not likely that he will ever do that again. As a person, as an individual, even you need to grow, you need to move on. And therefore, I don't see that that could ever happen or would ever have happened once he had left that position.
He debated in Parliament extremely well. With his help again, the government was able to pass several very important pieces of legislation. And of course, it is during those legislation which generally he would introduce into the Parliament that he demonstrated his skills as a debater and his knowledge of the law.
I am most proud of assisting the country to deal with the crime problem when I was Attorney General, and of some of the laws I was instrumental in putting in the law books of Trinidad and Tobago. The Freedom of Information Act, the amendment to the Constitution to make the government more accountable, the Integrity in Public Life Act, which was amended and which in effect was strengthened. I was instrumental in the Equal Opportunity Act, and a lot of laws which promoted openness, transparency and accountability of government. So I am very happy that I left a legacy of law reform which would strengthen the rights of people and not take away the rights of people.
He met archaic legislation, archaic facilities, and what he did was converted it and modernized it to meet the times that we were living in, and built a new building to hold the office of the Attorney General and the Solicitor General.
If you remember that period between 1995 to 2001, the crime rate had gone down. Murderers knew if they committed murder, they would be caught, they'd be prosecuted, and those who were convicted and sentenced to death, everything would be done to carry out the death penalty, and the death penalty was carried out during that period without any amendment of the law. I cannot change the world, I cannot change the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, but I must say that I feel every lawyer and every individual have a duty to one's country, but also have a duty to himself and his family. And I have that passion in me.
The people of this country failed to understand him and to understand his intentions. They saw it negatively rather than seeing it positively for them to be able to grow in the future.
I went through the mill, if I may say so, in fighting governmental oppression, and I know what it is. And I have been, so far, I've been very successful in some of the battles which I have fought. Those which I have not been successful in, well, it is a matter for history to judge me. I think we are in a very serious situation, almost on the brink of a precipice. And unless something happens, I see the values of Parliament destroyed, the values of governance ignored. I see the values of accountability, honesty and integrity dispensed with, and I see cosmetic behavior instead of real behavior being paraded as governance in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm very disappointed. It makes me feel sometimes that some of the sacrifices we politicians have made in the past to lift the standard may have been in vain.